key opportunities investors should be looking at is the people. A lot of talk about Africa has always been about the resources within Africa, whether it's coal, whether it's oil and gas, whether other mining opportunities. However, there's a massive consumer base that is sitting in Africa.
I think Africa also has one of the youngest populations and one of the fastest growing populations, and also one of the fastest creators of new middle class.
There's just a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of organic growth in these markets. The demographics are very, very favorable.
Because if you look at the demographics of Africa, by the year 2050, which isn't that long away, Africa will be a bigger middle-class market than all of India and China combined.
One area of opportunity is really providing goods and services that appeal to an emerging middle class. These could include things like fast-moving consumer goods, financial services.
Africans are willing to consume. Whatever statistic is out there that shows that Africans cannot afford, I think the mobile phone technology and its movement and penetration has clearly shown that Africans can afford to spend if the product is made available and if they find that product useful.
The McKinsey report got everyone very enthusiastic about the consumer sector in Africa, and it is indeed something to be enthusiastic about, but it's a little difficult to find enough companies to invest in that segment. It will get easier over time because better and better consumer companies will be developed in Africa.
I strongly believe that international investors looking to come into Africa should not only study what kind of resources Africa has, should not only think about extracting those resources from Africa and taking them out, but they should actually think of tapping into those resources, adding value to those resources domestically, because ultimately Africa itself is a market. And that's how they should see this continent.
What you're seeing is an entrepreneurial culture. People all over the continent are thinking about ways to make money, are exploring new ventures. They're hungry for growth. They take risks. There is a culture of risk taking in many places.
The African entrepreneurial spirit is so extraordinary because you look at African entrepreneurs and it's really like they say, you put any roadblock in my path, that's okay. I will climb over it. And they really do. And they come up with a million different solutions. They're very inventive. And they're doing that not just with one hand tied behind their back, but with both hands and their legs too.
One of the things that we're seeing that African entrepreneurs are very innovative. They sometimes bring a very different approach because of the different cultural background. Sometimes people think of African businesses as only being able to contribute to African growth or African market. And that's just not true. You've got young, bright, talented, innovative, creative Africans, African entrepreneurs, African businesses that have a lot to contribute to the entire world. We just haven't turned to them, quite frankly. We haven't really seen what we're missing.
You know, here is an entrepreneurial group that has sort of been born or come to life through all this adversity. Now imagine if you take all that out of their path, how far they will go. So I think it's going to be really interesting to watch as things like power generation gets better, what's going to happen to entrepreneurs when they don't have to spend so much of their time wasted on those things and they can just do business.
Well, I think Africa represents enormous opportunities to make a difference. But it's not simply that we're talking about benefiting Africa. I think economic growth does benefit Africa. We're talking about benefiting ourselves and benefiting the world economy. There's so much to gain through these partnerships. So I think opening the door, getting to work with African businesses, seeing the approach that they've taken, for example, the frugal innovation that have come from the SMS telephone platform that quite frankly, we in America for the longest time just ignored. I think you begin to see that there's so much that can be done.